Malaysia stands as a tapestry alive with color, where cultures, tongues, and creeds weave into a single national fabric. More than 60% of its people walk beneath the crescent moon of Islam, anchoring the faith firmly at the heart of public life. Yet, stitched quietly between its threads is a golden strand. Catholicism, subtle to the eye, yet unbroken through centuries. Born of the sails of early missionaries, tempered by colonial winds, and sustained by generations of steadfast hearts, it endures. Through storms of political tension, the maze of cultural complexity, and the weight of legal barriers, the Catholic Church has not merely endured. It has adapted, rooted deeper, and, in many places, flourished. From the bustling avenues of Kuala Lumpur to the quiet hamlets of Sabah and Sarawak, its communities still gather, worship, and serve. The path has been steep, yet within the climb lives something unshakable. Resilience, a voice that will not be muted, a hope that will not fade. This is the strength beneath the silence, the story behind the numbers. The quiet rise of Catholicism in the heart of a Muslim land. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support the channel. Number 1. Steady growth. In a nation where Islam shapes the public sphere and religious minorities often walk a narrow path, the Catholic Church in Malaysia has achieved something remarkable. Not through grand displays, but through the steady pulse of persistence. Over the decades, its presence has expanded with a quiet strength, nurtured not by privilege but by patient cultivation. Across the country, from city skylines to rural fringes, church doors still open each week, not only for worship but for learning, gathering, and serving. Many parishes double as the heart of their communities, sheltering schools renowned for their academic rigor and moral guidance, running community halls that host cultural events, and operating charities that reach far beyond parish boundaries. Catholic schools, in particular, have become trusted places of formation for children of many faiths, subtly deepening the Church's imprint without provoking hostility. Beneath the visible structures lies an intricate network of life. Catechism classes that pass on in the faith's language and traditions, youth groups that forge bonds of belonging, parish councils that operate with an almost familial cohesion. This rhythm of organized, intergenerational care ensures the faith is not merely inherited, but lived, guarding against the drift into secularism that has hollowed out many churches in the West. Even with restrictions on public broadcasting, limits on religious literature, and layers of bureaucracy slowing the construction of new churches, the Catholic community has adapted with creativity. Small Christian communities flourish in neighborhoods. Digital platforms extend outreach beyond physical walls. In ties with dioceses in Singapore and the Philippines, weave a supportive regional fabric. Every new parish, every baptism, every graduate from a Catholic school represents years, sometimes generations, of groundwork. This is growth shaped by deliberate stewardship, where resilience is not an accident, but the natural fruit of vision, discipline, and enduring faith. Number 2, the historical beginning. Catholicism's story in Malaysia begins like a tide drawn by both empire and conviction. In the early 1500s, the Portuguese seized the bustling port of Malacca, a glittering hub where merchants from China, India, Arabia, and the Malay world exchanged goods and ideas. Among the sails and cannon was Afonso de Albuquerque, a general whose military ambition was matched by a fierce devotion to the faith. Missionaries soon followed, Franciscans and Jesuits stepping onto tropical shores with the cross in one hand and the promise of learning and healing in the other. They built the first Catholic churches in the region and, alongside the gospel, introduced Western-style education and medical care. Malacca became a gateway, the first stronghold of Christianity in Southeast Asia. But empires shift like monsoon winds. Dutch Protestants replaced the Portuguese, curbing Catholic practice. Later, the British tilted the balance toward Anglican influence. Catholicism was not banned, yet it was pushed to the margins. Its churches seized, its influence clipped, its clergy sidelined. Still, the faith found refuge in pockets like Penang and the eastern coast, where small but steadfast communities kept the light alive. By the 19th century, a fresh wave of missionaries, French and Italian, many from the Paris Foreign Mission Society, arrived to rekindle the flame. They braved jungles, mountains, and political uncertainty, founding seminaries, training local clergy, and establishing mission schools and hospitals that served all, regardless of creed. In East Malaysia, especially Sabah and Sarawak, the church became woven into local culture, standing as both spiritual guide and provider of education, healthcare, and moral grounding in places where such services were rare. Through centuries of colonial handovers, cultural resistance, and legal constraints, Catholicism adapted and endured, taking root among Eurasians, Chinese, and indigenous peoples until it was no longer just an imported faith, but an inseparable part of Malaysia's religious landscape. The marks of those beginnings remain today in heritage churches, long-standing schools, and communities whose lineage traces back to those first missionaries who refused to let the faith fade. Number 3, a story of transformation. Behind Catholicism's steady rise in Malaysia runs a force deeper than statistics. A current of transformation powered not merely by sermons, but by a lived gospel of service. In a nation layered with cultural complexity and religious sensitivity, the church has carved out its influence through quiet constancy, earning trust where others might seek visibility. Its schools, many born from missionary hands decades ago, are known not just for academic rigor, but for shaping character. They welcome students from every creed, weaving classrooms where moral formation and intellectual growth walk side by side. Beyond the school gates, Catholic hospitals and clinics, some in remote villages, others in crowded cities, have become lifelines in places where public health care falters. Yet the heart of this outreach lies in the margins. Among those the system forgets: stateless families, migrant laborers without papers, urban poor tucked away in the shadows, refugees crossing borders with little more than hope. Parishes and lay groups have responded with agility, bringing mobile clinics to rural Sabah, running education drives in mountain villages, setting up food banks and job placement in Johor, and offering shelter to displaced families. On Malacca, centuries-old mission routes have been reimagined into programs that blend heritage with urgent human need. Organizations like the St. Vincent de Paul Society and Catholic Welfare Services have shifted from short-term charity to structured, long-term support, counseling the traumatized, advocating for the voiceless, and guiding people back into stable community life. What distinguishes this mission is its measured strength: legal caution paired with moral courage, refusing politicization, yet filling the gaps left by both government and market. Here, service is never transactional. In villages, cities, and refugee enclaves alike, the church offers aid without strings, a hand extended not to recruit, but to restore dignity. It is this unspoken invitation, this consistency of compassion, that has made Catholic outreach in Malaysia not merely visible, but credible, even in places where trust in institutions is wearing thin. Number 4, spiritual awakening. Catholicism's growth in Malaysia is more than numbers on a chart. It is a quiet resurgence, a deepening of faith that has taken root in both ancestral homelands and the restless heart of its cities. In Sarawak, this awakening has been especially striking. Once a peripheral presence, the church now beats at the spiritual core of the region, its influence woven into daily rhythms. This transformation has been decades in the making, shaped not by sudden waves of revival, but by patient mission work. Foreign missionaries, local catechists, and indigenous clergy have walked side by side with the people, speaking their languages, sharing their customs, and anchoring the sacraments in the pulse of community life. Among the Iban, Bidayu, and Lunbawang, faith is no longer an external creed. It is a way of life where baptism, marriage, and funeral rites flow seamlessly alongside harvest festivals and village celebrations. Chapel walls now rise in highland clearings, rural mission schools light the minds of children, and local leaders carry forward a faith inherited as their own. From birth to death, the Church's presence is constant, offering guidance, companionship, and practical support in moments of both joy and hardship. Beyond Sarawak, in the urban sprawl of Kuala Lumpur and other peninsular cities, another form of renewal unfolds. Here, congregations are a mosaic of university students, migrant workers, professionals, and spiritual seekers from every cultural background. In a landscape where modern isolation meets cultural fragmentation, the Church offers something rare: a place of belonging, ritual, and moral clarity. English language masses draw diverse crowds, youth ministries pulse with energy, and social justice programs give the faith a tangible public voice. Despite limits on public expression, new parishes are rising, vocations to the priesthood and religious life are growing, and lay leaders are stepping into roles once reserved for clergy. The Church is embracing the tools of a new era: digital catechesis, cross-cultural outreach, and interfaith dialogue. Without compromising the substance of its teaching, whether in rural chapels or city cathedrals, what emerges is not a shallow affiliation, but a committed, lived faith. One that shapes identity, nurtures community, and quietly transforms lives through worship, service, and witness. Number 5, the power of the Holy Spirit. Beneath the visible framework of schools, missions, and charitable works, the heartbeat of Catholicism's growth in Malaysia is something intangible yet undeniable: the living movement of the Holy Spirit. For believers, this is not an abstract doctrine, but a real presence, guiding and igniting the Church's mission across generations and cultures. From humble chapels in Sarawak's forested hills to towering cathedrals in Kuala Lumpur, an unseen wind is stirring hearts, rekindling faith in those who had drifted, inspiring fresh vocations, multiplying prayer groups, and deepening reverence for the sacraments. This energy is felt in the quiet devotion of a family praying at dusk, in the persistence of a catechist teaching children under a tin roof, and in the courage of a young adult defending their beliefs on a secular campus. What is unfolding is more than numerical growth. It is a spiritual reawakening, a faith maturing in depth, not just expanding in breadth. Even in a nation where public religious expression for minorities is cautious, this interior renewal is steady and unshaken. In Sarawak, where Christians form a cultural majority, the Church is becoming ever more entwined with daily life. In urban centers, its presence offers belonging and moral clarity amid the noise of globalization. The Spirit moves through acts of service, in education that shapes both mind and conscience, in charity that meets urgent needs without demanding allegiance, in worship that anchors restless hearts. This same Spirit is at work far beyond Malaysia's shores, linking its story to a greater tide of renewal sweeping the global south. From the crowded slums of Nairobi to the mountain villages of Vietnam, from hidden congregations in China to vibrant parishes in Brazil. Here in Malaysia, that tide is rising quietly, one soul at a time. Faith meeting action, grace meeting hunger, mission meeting response. Number 6, young, Catholic, and bold. Across Malaysia, a new generation of Catholics is stepping into spaces once reserved for the most seasoned leaders, carrying their faith with a confidence that defies both social pressure and the quiet expectation to keep belief private. They are coming of age in a world saturated with screens, marked by cultural complexity, and tempted by the ease of indifference. Yet they are charting a path rooted in the gospel, alive to the challenges of their time. Here in the bustling hubs of Kuala Lumpur, Penang, and Johor Bahru, youth ministries have become spiritual anchor points. Not just weekend gatherings, but communities where students, young professionals, and new converts find direction and belonging. Bible studies and retreats blend with music-filled liturgies, while service projects take faith from the chapel into the streets. Cool. On university campuses, peer-led small groups meet week after week, creating safe spaces where doubts can be voiced, wounds can be shared, and questions of purpose are met with Christ-centered hope. In Tronama, far from the city lights, in the rural stretches of Sabah and Sarawak, young Catholics lead village choirs, teach catechism to children, and organize youth fellowships that sometimes outshine urban parishes in their vibrancy. Many are the first in their families to grow up fully Catholic, the children of indigenous converts whose faith was hard-won. For them, belief is not an inherited formality. It is a living encounter, shaped by community, sacrament, and shared struggle. This generation is also fearless in the digital arena. On Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, they share testimonies, record prayers in multiple languages, and tackle moral questions with clarity and creativity. A simple video on the Eucharist or the lives of the saints can draw messages from seekers of other faiths. Proof that online mission, once an afterthought, is now at the front line. Their witness does not stop at the parish gate. Many step into interfaith projects and social causes. From cleaning polluted rivers to hosting mental health workshops, from running food banks to advocating for the dignity of migrants. They build bridges where dialogue is delicate, showing that conviction and openness can stand side by side. The cost is real. Some face subtle discrimination at school or work. Others are warned not to be too religious. But these young Catholics choose depth over retreat, fidelity over approval. They understand their mission is not about winning the crowd, but transforming hearts. So, they carry the church forward, not as its distant future, but as its living, breathing present. In Malaysia, Catholicism does not roar. It breathes. It moves quietly through classrooms and clinics, through mountain chapels and city streets, through the voices of young leaders and the hands of those who serve. Rooted in history, shaped by sacrifice, and sustained by the Holy Spirit, it rises without demanding the spotlight. Here, faith grows not by force, but by love. Steady, unshakable, and alive. And as long as hearts keep answering that call, the church will continue to walk forward, one soul at a time, carrying light into the places the world least expects to find it. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support the channel.